Dr. Bill Lee was supposed to be here to present our next honoree, but he couldn't be here tonight. And so for anyone who knows Dr. Lee knows there is no stand-in for Dr. Lee, but I will try to make it fit. So I'm here to present the Henry W. Grady Mid-Career Alumni Award. Michael Abramowitz is our recipient. He's the Public Relations Manager for the PGA of America's membership. He's responsible for media relations and also currently handles corporate communications, writing the PGA's Board of Directors and Executive Staff speeches, press conferences, media interviews, events, and working events such as the PGA Merchandise Show, PGA Championship, the Ryder Cup, and the PGA Annual Meeting. Abramowitz spent 5 years at CNN Headline News as an editor, where he created the Play of the Day and sports trivia for Headline News and the CNN Airport Network. Please join me in congratulating Michael Abramowitz with the Henry W. Grady Mid-Career Award.
Well, we have a saying in my house, never follow James Brown. Never follow James Brown on stage. So I go between Maria and Ernie. This is such a tremendous honor for me to be back home, and I really mean home, because I live next door in Myers Hall, and I actually worked in this very building on my very first television show. It was a show called Georgia Sunrise. It was the Farm Report with Artis Ford. We did hog futures, we did cattle futures, you name it. If it was a future, we had it. Well, 6 months later, we were canceled by Georgia Public Television. That was my first job in television. Luckily, my second job in television was working on the Hugh Durham show, and I got to do camera, teleprompter, stage managing, working with Coach Durham, working with Chuck Dowdle, and it was a great thrill. And it opened many doors for my career. So I'm very grateful, and this building has a special place in my heart. You don't get an award like this without having other people help you along the way. So I'd just like to mention a few. Dr. Lee was supposed to be the one I was going to mention, but obviously he couldn't be here tonight. But I have a great story about Dr. Lee. One day he had me stand up in the basement of the library during a communication law class. And he said, turn around. And I had my University of Georgia drumline jacket on because I was a member of the Redcoat Band. And he said, Michael, I want you to bring a snare drum here next week and do a drum solo. And I said, Dr. Lee, we're in the basement of the library. So next week I did a drum solo, supposedly for extra credit, yet I wound up with a B in the class. So. All that said, I'd also like to thank David Azinski as well. I was one of his students, and I survived his class. I actually was a student of his for 2 years. And there's certain people that I'd also like to thank, Claude Felton, Mike Mobley, and the late Norm Riley at the Athletic Association. I was fortunate enough to work Georgia football, basketball, track and field, tennis, you name it, because of them. I was able to do stats, and it was just a great thrill. There's also some people I worked with at Headline News and people who helped me get to Headline News, and I'll say quickly, a man named Jim Huber, who I know Ernie knows very well. Jim was a neighbor of mine when I was growing up. And when I was 15 years old, he said, hey, you want to go to journalism school, don't you? I said, yeah. Well, he showed me the article he had on his wall. It was an article from the Atlanta Constitution on the Atlanta Flames, and now the Calgary Flames. And I saw Jim's picture on there, and I went, whoa, this is what I want to do in my life. How do I do it? He said, well, I think you should go to Georgia. They have an up-and-coming journalism program, and I think you'll do well there. So here you are now, the #2 ranked journalism school in the country last time I saw, and there's a good reason why. You got an incredible staff, incredible faculty, and you prepare people for the next 30 years, not for the next 5 years. We're able to adapt because of what you do. Finally, I'd like to thank my colleagues at the PGA of America and my family, my wife Andrea, my daughter Kayla, my sons Ben and Ethan. Kayla and Ethan, some of you may know, suffer from juvenile arthritis, and Kayla's got Crohn's disease and Ethan's got an eosinophilic esophagitis. Kayla stood up to me 3 years ago and said, I'd like to donate DVDs to Miami Children's Hospital, which is now Nicholas Children's Hospital. And I said, well, how many? She said, 100. I said, 100? Are you crazy? And I said, how are you going to do this? She said, I'll take my wagon around the neighborhood and I will get 100 DVDs. Don't you worry, Daddy. So she made a flyer, and 2 days later, we had 300 DVDs in our living room. 3 years later, she's donated 11,000 items to 90-some-odd children's hospitals in all 50 states. This past week, she won the Prudential Award, National Award, one of 10 winners across the country, and she won the Christopher Reeve Award a couple weeks ago. So if you have any books or DVDs you want to donate, talk to Kayla. It's Kayla Cares for Kids, and that's the last commercial I'll do today. So thank you very much.